Hello everyone and welcome to Be Born Reddit. I, 29 female, found out my husband, 34 male, is obsessed with our boss's daughter and I have no idea what I could do or how I should proceed. Original post. For some context first, I, 29 and my husband, 34, work for a small R&B firm here. We were both recommended through a relative of mine. I've been working here for about 6 years, my husband for about 7 years. During the work time, our boss would occasionally bring his then teenage daughter to work. She should have been around 15ish when we first met her and had her interact with employees and stuff to show her what we were doing, how things work, etc. Fast forward to January of this year, the boss brought her in, officially letting us know that she will be taking over a good deal of his work overlooking things. We were initially hesitant, considering she was so young, turned 20 this year, but ultimately, she wasn't taking over, more so learning to handle the business while the boss managed other work, I suppose. It helped that she herself was also very keen on cooperating and taking advice, often holding meetings to discuss things and making sure she herself is the last to leave work almost every time. It's been an overall good development in that regards. The issue started initially a few months after she started. She would occasionally hold office events just to lighten the mood, and this earned her a lot of praise from all of us since it's not something the old boss would have time to look into. We were all talking about her, so it didn't feel too weird at first when my husband joined in on the praising, how impressive it is she's so young but so mature. How she's been a breath of fresh air in the office, everyone's so motivated to work cause of her, etc. With hindsight, it seems like that was just his in on talking about her with me in general. Every now and then he'd start singing her praises when we're at home, a huge talking point always being how she's so mature for her age and understanding, even pointing out how we weren't at that age. I didn't take it much to heart until one time I joked that it was fine if he was immature at times and that I would love him regardless, and his response was something along the lines of, "Well, you were too, unlike her." I think that was the first time I felt a bit bad because it felt like he actually was just comparing me to her now, but I tried not to think too much about her. This slowly spiraled too, going from talking about her maturity to looks, how can she still look good while being so busy with studies and work, how she, and I quote, was definitely more gifted compared to other girls, and once out of insecurity, I asked if he thought she was prettier than me, and he gave me a, "Of course you're attractive to me, but objectively, like not considering my attraction to you, she's prettier." This messed with me for a while and we ended up having a fight where I essentially banned him from bringing her up with me if it's not work related. Also adding to it was the fact that he started taking extra work every now and then and working overtime, and while I initially thought it was just to earn extra money, I later found out it was simply because he knew she usually heads home late too, usually after most if not all employees left. Fast forward to a few days back, weekend happened, husband was out with his friends and my laptop was at the repair, so I used his laptop without his permission. We are relatively free with each other's devices, like we never have a reason to use each other's devices. But if for some reason we did, the other didn't mind, so I didn't think much of it. I had put on some videos on autoplay as background noise as I did some work. When I opened his PC folder and on the left quick access bar there was a folder with our boss's daughter's name. I had to click it, and when I did, I actively couldn't believe what I was seeing, a folder of over 1000 plus pics of her, screenshots from Instagram and other apps, and any and every pic he could find of her, and an insane number of pics just taken without her consent, like with either a hidden camera or his phone at the office, ranging from her sitting or working to some from a high enough angle to get cleavage or down blouse, and even a few under the table shots, though those didn't have anything to show from what I'd seen. This creeped me out beyond anything since it was almost impossible to place my husband, who I have always known as the sweetest guy for the 6 years we have been married, as someone who would do something like this. I was shocked and just didn't really know how to react. If I should feel disgusted or sad, angry, I don't know. But then it got worse. I used search to look up her name on his laptop and found something that basically turned any form of sorrow or sadness I would have felt into just pure disgust. He basically had a folder poorly hidden deep in a number of folders just full of photoshopped pics of her, some solo, some with him, some with other members of the office, and some just absolutely vile and disgusting. I deleted all traces of me having seen or searched for those, though I doubt it was necessary since my husband isn't the most tech savvy to begin with. Took a pic of some of the stuff I saw and left the laptop. I was furious, but I also didn't want him to know yet, so I acted normal that night. And then the next day, I called up my cousin. She was pregnant and her husband was away, and asked if she needed help, and used that as an excuse to move in and help for a bit. I have talked to my husband, though limited, mostly through text and occasionally at work, but for the last 4 days, I've been living with my cousin. Honestly, I'm disgusted, but I also don't know what to do exactly. Like, I feel a mixture of being cheated on, which I know he didn't do anything with her, but still, I can't explain it. But on top of that, I feel disgusted that my husband was this sort of a man. But even talking about it to my friends or family feels weird. I tried to share with my cousin, but the embarrassment didn't allow me to say anything. I just don't know what to do right now. I can't stay here forever. I'll have to head back sooner rather than later, but I also don't think I can just go back home and pretend that none of this happened or I didn't see any of this. So thought this was the best way to stay anonymous and ask for some form of advice. What should I do and how should I progress? So, a lot happened in the course of a few hours. I honestly wanted to wait a few more days to cool off myself and then do whatever was needed, but some of the comments did have me worried if he got an idea and deleted everything. If he did something harmful in the meantime, and as my friend pointed out, if he somehow, as unlikely as it might be, found the post and put two and two together. We ended up going over around 4 pm-ish, knowing we'd have a few hours to collect whatever. I made sure to copy everything on the 2 folders to a flash drive and took a video of it being from his laptop too, in case that was something needed. Then, as another commenter suggested, we looked for my name, which came out with nothing but regular pics and stuff. After that, my friend asked me to look up co-workers' names, and when I did, that hit some results with 4 other co-workers' names, all women, but none to the same extent as the boss's daughter. Like, between the downloaded pics, Creepshots, and edited pics, all 4 of them combined didn't match hers. All the folders were hidden the same way inside a few layers of new folders, like one folder inside another, etc., up to like 8 to 9 new folders. We took those too. Then my friend pointed out that some of those might be files he received, since the file names were different and some were similar to WhatsApp files, as she pointed out. This is something I hadn't noticed. But the edited files were definitely named differently, some being daughter's name plus call in action, and then others just being something like image number and then WA0014 or something along that line, which my friend said are pics he received in WhatsApp. We confirmed that they were indeed received from WhatsApp in the pic information. This ultimately made me do something that I shouldn't have done, since it could have blown up in my face. But it had made me anxious and I needed answers, so I asked my friends if they would stay till my husband gets back. They agreed, and I decided to take that time to pack my bags, just necessary things for now. My friends did say he's logged into Facebook, but didn't want to check his Facebook without me, and by the time they told me that, it was already time for him to come back, so we decided to not do anything. We waited and waited until he finally came back. He was surprised to see us but didn't seem to suspect anything, and I told him to sit down. He did, and I think that's when he noticed his laptop on the couch and asked what was going on. I told him I saw some things related to the boss's daughter and that I wanted an explanation. He tried to get angry at first but quickly dropped that act. I told him I wanted to hear what he had to say and then decide what to do. He said he was fine talking, but only if my friends waited in the dining or another room, as he wanted to explain things to me alone. My friends were hesitant, but I told them it's fine and that if they hear any issues to send the drive link to the boss. This was a bluff that I wish I had thought about before he came, but I told him that I saved everything on a Google Drive and I wouldn't hesitate sending it to the boss if he tried anything. He assured me he wouldn't act up and asked me what I wanted to know. At that point, I really wanted to hit him. Just the look on his face. He looked guilty, like he was looking for excuses but failing or something. I don't know. But I really hated it, but I stayed calm and told him I saw a lot of things, including all the pics of her, the edits, and a few other things. I asked him to explain. He kept asking me exactly what I wanted to know, and it was becoming obvious that he was either stalling for an excuse or trying to see how much I knew. Told him finally that I saw the pics, the hidden cam pics, and even the edits. He pleaded with me to not get mad and hear him out. And I told him I'll consider it. He took a minute and told me that he had noticed he was growing more and more attracted to her intimately, and he apparently struggled with these emotions a lot, which is why he did that, and that he wanted to release his tension without harming anyone, which is why he made those and kept it to himself. I I then asked to see his WhatsApp and the color in his face almost drained. He told me I knew he didn't use WhatsApp, but I told him I had checked his Google Play to see what apps he had installed. Another lie, but I was sure he was using WhatsApp, so I still went with it. After a bit, he handed me the phone and told me to not overreact. I took his phone and searched around for a bit. He has a lot of pointless apps downloaded, and it was hard to spot, especially since it wasn't even on the home screen but on a folder file inside the slide screen thingy Android has on the third page. Sorry if the explanation confuses you. I opened it to find just one group chat with 3 other colleagues, members of the team he is in basically, and it was just filled with pics of this girl, creepshots taken from different areas, zoomed in for the most part from today, like literally a few minutes before he handed me the phone. A lot of conversations in Bangla about fantasies on how they would have done her. Scrolling up, it keeps getting worse and worse. I won't go into details on the specifics, but a lot of it was about wanting to force themselves on her as a revenge on the boss kind of thing, but with her acting as the boss, and some were even full-on, well-thought-out scenarios where they are playing out what they do and what not. If you ever read something and just face pure whiplash, that was me at that moment, literally unable to process it properly. He kept apologizing, telling me he loved me and that this was all just to keep himself in control and that it was ultimately just harmless fantasizing. I only caught bits and pieces of what he was saying before just turning on the screen recorder and scrolling, recording the conversations, and the more I scrolled up, the more vile it got. The conversation did predate my husband joining, it seemed, but that didn't really matter. He was very actively taking part in it. I got a good chunk of it, but it didn't seem to end, so I simply went to the chat media, and even that was a huge scrolling down of pics, creepshots from phones, fakes, etc. I ended up getting as much as I could and sending it over to me, making sure it's saved on my phone. All the while he kept begging me to forgive him and not ruin his life and career. Sorry, and I quote, our life and careers. I told him I felt betrayed. And I told him I was disgusted at the man he was, and through his apologizing, he kept insisting it didn't really hurt anyone, but I told him it hurt me, and if she found out, it would hurt her too, and he simply pleaded with me to not tell her. For a while, we just cried for different reasons, I presume, but the entire time he kept switching between how he's sorry and he loves me to how it's not as bad as I'm making it out to be, and how they were just messing around online and weren't hurting anyone. My friends checked in on me a few times but didn't interfere. After a while, I pulled myself up and told him that I don't see myself staying with him and that I want a divorce. He pleaded with me not to do so, but I simply said that I didn't want to listen to his excuses. I then told him that I wanted to take the laptop and he froze. I was half expecting him to reject me, but he simply begged me not to show this to the boss or the daughter. I told him I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that, which was a lie, and that I am thinking it over. I told him not to delete the WhatsApp conversations or tell the others, and that if he does, I will send everything to the boss. Ultimately, I want to talk to the daughter first and then decide what to do and how to tell the father. But that will have to wait, I guess. There were a bit more pleading and I simply left it on. I don't know what I want to do. I need to think it over and will let him know, and told him to not contact me in the meantime, and that was all we said as we left with his laptop. I do hope he doesn't alert his friends, but even if he did, it wouldn't matter since the screen recording has their names and numbers on the group chat and a huge chunk of the stuff they said. The thing is, since nothing physical happened, I know the police won't take it seriously 90% of the times, with the only possible time they might take it seriously is if the girl herself took action, so I intend to give her all of what I have and let her proceed with whatever action she chooses to take there. I do wish I had waited to talk to lawyers before taking things this far, but the fear and emotions had me wrapped up and I just ended up taking action. It seems to have worked out, but I don't know. Husband seemed pretty defeated today, but considering how little it feels like I know him, I honestly can't tell with him anymore. I will see how things play out and maybe do one final update, but from my understanding, things will probably just end with a divorce and him getting fired. Still, thank you all for the help, even just snapping me into action. When we were leaving, he was basically sobbing and begging for forgiveness or claiming how it's all just a mistake and nothing actually happened, to the point where I almost did feel bad for him. Almost, but I don't think I can feel sympathy after those chats and whatnot. My friends luckily were also there to remind me that regardless of what he says, his actions are not for me to forgive. give. Right now, I don't really know what to feel. My mind's a bit of a mess and things are processing weirdly. Apologies in advance if some of this is incoherent or feels like there are blanks in between stuff. Trust me, there are blanks in my head too right now. A few things I did want to specify. On the post, some people took the he's not tech savvy bit as though he isn't good with tech at all, which isn't the case. I think of tech savvy as being great with tech, and that's what I meant. That he's not that great, but he's still decent. We work in RMG offices. A lot of our work is with Modaris, Photoshop, and Illustrator, and he's decent with them. I just meant that in a sense that he's not the type to hide folders or passcode vault stuff, if that makes sense. Second is hidden cam was less talking about actual hidden cam and more just the style of it. Most of those are taken via phone, and as we now found out, multiple phones from different people. Third, some people thought she was a minor. She isn't. She's 20 as of this year, but that still doesn't change the fact that he knew her when she was a minor and that they started this when she was 19. Fourth, I've been going back and forth with who to tell exactly, and while she's still young, she's strong, and as much as I hate to say this after hearing it from my husband for so long, she's mature for her age. And as she's directly involved, I think it's only fair I tell her and let her decide who she wants to share these with. I've made attempts to reach out, preferably outside work, and I let her decide how she wants to approach everything from her side. Fifth, am I worried about my job too? A bit, for a few reasons. First, because me and my husband were both recommended by my relative, and now all of a sudden that changes to someone my relative recommended creeping on the boss's daughter. And second, because I will technically be the ex-wife of the guy who stalked her to her and the boss, so that's something to worry about too. But regardless, I think it's still the right decision to make. Last, about the divorce, I'm worried for it for sure, but we don't necessarily have a joint fortune, and most of our finances are our own, with a very small fund saved up that we usually keep for trips and stuff. And I personally think I have enough proof on me too, but still, I will get legal counseling within the next few days, preferably before things blow up on his face. I'm currently staying at a friend's for a few days while I look for a new flat. I wanted to move in with my parents for a bit, but my gut is telling me that's the last place I should go once the news breaks. Last update. So I think this will be the only update. I saw a few people were asking for updates before too, but I honestly needed some time to myself too and wanted to see how things played out before making an update. So, as I said in the last edit and some of the comments, I ended up going to the boss's daughter, showed her everything I had and told her I had the laptop too if she needed. I could tell it was a good bit for her to process initially, but she said she's used to stuff like this. Yeah, duck this place honestly, and so compose herself. Afterwards, she asked if it would be fine for me to help her go through the screenshots and screen recordings and pics, since she'd rather not have to go into checking the details herself, and I agreed. We sat at a local food chain and basically wrote out a detailed HR report, like not a report to the HR but a report from the HR regarding that team. I went over the different aspects of the text caught on the screen recording and the edited pics as well as the creepshots of her. She reassured me that I won't be facing any consequences for this and to leave talking to her father to her. She asked if I were to be called to the police station if I would be willing to go, and I said I would. She concluded that while in other areas this could have been used to better punish them, high chances are that this won't do much other than maybe a few days worth of jail. But that she would still be going to the police, as this will be a good way to make sure if they ever even considered doing something, this could be used to screw them over. As for their jobs, she said she would keep them for a few days while the filing and reports work its way up, then fire them on spot with no reference or experience certificate, basically rendering any attempts of showing work experience in this company impossible, and should they try, future hires will be sent the HR report we built. We concluded the meeting there, and with her telling me not to worry and just not interact with them at work. After that, I spoke to a lawyer, showed him everything I had, and while he took a small bit, said that things can be done relatively easily. Thing is, it's not like me or my husband have that much joint property or wealth that there would be much of a dirty breakup financially, but from the looks of things, so far at least, things seem to be going in my favor. My husband did call a few times and texted to see if I would reconsider, but I blocked him more or less. Didn't want any part of his BS honestly. This is the part where the shitstorm I'd mentioned started. calls and messages from relatives, all with the purpose of letting me know that these things happen and that I shouldn't hold it against him. I talked to my mother and found out that what he told her and a few other relatives, including his parents, were I got jealous because he accidentally showed interest in the boss's daughter but never planned to act on it. This caused almost everyone but his mother to side with him, while his mother called me to apologize, saying she was ashamed of what her son had said. I had originally told my husband I wouldn't blow this out of proportion, but ended up telling my mother and his parents, the former who responded exactly as I thought she would. She told me it's not like he acted on it and that this much is nothing to ruin a marriage over. This didn't surprise me since when one of my aunts got cheated on, she and her other sister had essentially taken the stance of just forgive it and ignore it, move on and don't bring it up. Things will be happy. My mother and I had a huge back and forth where she brought up family reputation, embarrassment if family finds out what he did, embarrassment if I'm a divorcee in my 30s. Yeah, that's a thing here sadly, and yeah, 29 is still reaching 30s. We ended the call on pretty bad terms, but it was expected. The family itself is more or less on the same stance, with only some choosing to stay away, and even now when I ended up sharing the exact reason with a few members, they responded, let it go and fix the relationship or something akin to that. The pleasant surprise came from telling his parents though, who took my side. After things blew up, his mother apologized to me, telling me she was ashamed of what her son did, while the father told me he will make sure my husband won't be causing any issues for me in the divorce or in general. I was honestly expecting them to take his side like my family, so this was a welcome surprise. Yesterday, the team were called into the boss's office along with some police. I don't know what was said and done, but they were in there for a long time, and by the time they all left, they just looked defeated, especially my husband. It seems she did exactly what she said she'd do and fired them. I don't know the specifics of it. I don't necessarily intend to ask either. As for me personally, it's been rough. It's easy to get angry when everything is happening. It's the moments when things are calm that memories and feelings get the best of things, but I'll be fine. I get to keep my job, which is huge in my opinion. The whole thing with family isn't getting much better, it seems. Got a bit worse after the firing. I have my stuff and I have moved in with a friend for a few days while I look for a smaller apartment. As for husband, I don't exactly know, but I assume he'll be moving in with his parents, who are pretty annoyed with him. The apartment we stayed in was something we both contributed to live in, so without income, I can't see him maintaining it at all. Honestly, this is probably it. I don't really see myself making any more updates to this. It's been a mess, but still, I want to thank everyone for the love and support. It really helped me a lot. I haven't really thought out the response too well. Might have missed parts of stuff. If I did, I'll try to answer anything I can, but other than that, this might be it. Additional info from OP. It wasn't just over a few pics of her, it was over 1000-ish pics, about a 300 or so from social media, and the rest Creepshots taken without permission, a bunch of degrading edits and photoshops. A ton of grape roleplay, or whatever it was, with her as a target, of a girl he's known since she was 15. As for ruining his future jobs, that would be ruined regardless. It's not my doing. Let's say an experience certificate was given. You think any future company wouldn't contact his previous workplace to get a report of him? And you think any HR issues he caused wouldn't be shown to them in that case? The only way to not ruin his life would be to not go to the boss and his daughter at all, which just seems irresponsible. Anything beyond that is on their hand. Even if I hadn't helped with the report, she could have gotten others to do it. There's no real stopping that. If he was trying to protect me from any embarrassment, he wouldn't have made it into a jealousy thing over nothing. His version of the story just makes it seem like I'm jealousy thinks someone is hot, which caused a good deal of issues here too. As for help, he can get that from his family. The whole grapey aspect of it is not something I can just shrug off. As for spilling all the details, every last detail could have been left out of the family had he not decided to try to play into the fact that I'd rather have not involved family by involving family. His family seems to have a good head on their shoulders. They can get him whatever help he needs, if he needs any. With him and I, we're done for good. If there were any chances of fixing things, they're definitely gone now, and that's a huge if. That was the end of the video. Comment down below to share what you thought. Press like and subscribe and click the notification bell for more regular updates. Thank you for watching.